Look, line them up, then knock them down. That's all you can do.
You are Locked On Trojans, your daily podcast on the USC Trojans, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, fight on, everyone. I'm your host, Mark Culkin, and thank you for making Locked On USC your first listen every day. Whether you like to watch me on YouTube or wherever you like to download your podcast, we are free. I appreciate your support. Do me a favor, show your appreciation. It means a lot to the show. If you're watching on YouTube, click that subscribe button. When you see that thumbs up button, hit it, smash it, make it go thumbs down. And I don't want you to miss an episode 1 time a week, 5 times a week, Monday through Friday. Hit that bell notification button. You know, there's an argument to be made. I've heard it, people talk about it all the time, that if you're not going to get the credit for, beating crappy FBS Division I level teams, you might as well just schedule crappy FCS and get the similar scores and the same skeptical results from the critics who don't like to admit when they see progress. If a small but vocal contingent of USC fans want to point at the yards given up by the Trojans defense and say, and then all of a sudden say, look, see, the defense still sucks, then I question your acumen to understand what you've been watching. Do you really understand football? Stop pretending. Stop acting like the position group rotations that we're all watching through these first 3 games are going to stay the same when USC is playing games 4 through 12 and beyond. Because playing the entire USC roster of players, that's coming to an end. But what about USC gave up 200 yards rushing to Stanford? Holy Hades, people. They led 49-3 at halftime, for crying out loud. I think the defense was doing their job. And I don't care how bad Stanford is this year. They're still a rival. They're still a Division I FBS caliber team. And there's actually some talent on that roster that USC would like to have on their own. The Trojan backups and their backups played the entire second half of that game. So yeah, they're going to give up some yards. And you know what else? They even gave up 7 points. The horror. Oh my God. Listen up, haters. USC is not going to change their defensive coordinator or their scheme anytime soon. So just sit back, accept it, and look for the positives. Look for the progress. Look for the players who are being developed. Compare it to last year. And then add some context and some nuance. Here, for instance, let's add some context to learning on the job training during the game. After Tuesday's practice, Alex Grinch, he met with the media, and he talked about this specific statistic. He said the defense has faced 32 different formations and has seen 50% motion plays through 3 games. Okay. I don't care how experienced you are. That's going to confuse people. You have to literally be dedicated to the game 24 hours a day in the film room to really be able to lock this stuff down. We're talking about college students. So when we're talking about Taka Curtis learning on the job or being critical of, the backups' performances on the field, try and remember this is not a video game. Look, Grinch's system is easy to learn. I'm going to continue talking about that here in this segment. Next segment, we're going to talk about who's better than USC right now. We might rearrange the top 25 poll. And then the third segment of the show, kick the ball out of bounds. I think you know where I'm going with that one. Let's get back to the defense. My everyday listeners can check their receipts. When I spoke about Solomon Byrd and what he's produced so far at the defensive end, I obviously was stating, the obvious because Alex Grinch said the same thing on Tuesday. he highlighted how well Byrd is playing and the impact he's making. The night before, Monday night, Coach Grinch was on the Trojans Live Radio Show with Sean Cody and host Jordan Moore, Max Brown, Keely Eure. And Coach Grinch explained his defensive philosophy this way. And here's just a quick reminder for everybody. Here's a snapshot view of USC's defense. They run a single gap defense up front, which means each player is responsible for shooting a specific gap rather than trying to read and react to where the ball is going. So when Alex Grinch is reviewing the game film, he said this: watching video with a guy, it's real simple. If you're running into guys, that's not our defense. When it comes to the run defense and the linebackers role, this is what Grinch said. We say run game should look like pressure, should look like blitz. It's not your opinion as a linebacker, for instance, that you study your feet in the hole and kind of wait to see where the ball is. You have a gap. The D-line has one, and you have one, and you have to fire the gun. He's saying, don't look to do something different. Don't go off script. Do what you're trained to do. Hit your gap. If you don't get the glory on that play, somebody else will. Do your job. As far as the secondary, Coach Grinch said he likes the secondary to be more match principles. And he's looking, with that group, they're looking to eliminate two things: space and speed. But he also said that it's difficult to do that without dropping at least 8 players into pass coverage. But, philosophically, that's how he wants to do things. They want to rush 4 guys. The most noticeable difference that is showing up on film, according to Coach Grinch, this season his guys are in attack mode instead of being in a defensive mode. Quote, they're defending and there's attacking. Defending is formation recognition. Defending is making sure you've got a checker, defensive player, where you need a checker. And defending is making sure that you limit some of the exposure of certain guys in certain spots. For instance, we want to play man coverage. That's fine, but you can't put that guy in man every single snap. Now, versus the attacking mode. The attacking piece is putting guys in position that you can attack the opponent and look to exploit any weaknesses that they may have, and put guys in a position where they can play downhill and then attack. And from a play calling standpoint, you've got to make sure that you're not doing too much of one or the other. You attack too much and you're not defending enough, and you run the risk of putting yourself in some real blind spots. If you can script it and you can survive it, it really can lend itself to some real positive. Grinch said, of the different looks and challenges his defense has faced so far, because all those things you're going to see over the course of the season. So the needle is pointing up. Remember at the top of the segment, I said the defense has faced 32 different formations, and 50% of the snaps have been plays in motion. So keeping that in mind, using that context, are we really not going to look how much better the defense has looked this year? Especially if we narrow it down to who we anticipate is going to be in the 2 deep. Folks, they played 3 games and they looked incredibly good in all 3 of them, and they're getting better in each game. Pump the brakes. Try not to get too overworked about USC gave up 200 yards to Stanford. The backups played. Oh, well. Passion, drive, and patience. What brings home the winning trophy is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. From superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more, whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebay.com/motors. That's eBay Guaranteed Fit, only available to U.S. customers, eligible items only, exclusions do apply. The college football season is here, and this season, Locked On College is kicking up our coverage. Every Friday, Locked On will go live from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern on every Locked On College YouTube channel. Locked On College Football Live will cover the college football playoff implications, the conference rivalry games, and they're going to go in depth like only Locked On can, including insight and analysis from our stable of Locked On College hosts covering their team every day. Find Locked On College Football Live every Friday from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern on any Locked On College YouTube channel. You won't want to miss it. I think it's time that we arrange the top 25. Why not? If Kirk Herbstreit can do it, so can I, right? Here's a reminder. This is the AP Top 25. So you check this out while I start rambling. On Monday's episode of Locked On USC, I talked briefly about the new AP Top 25 poll and how USC moved up to number 5. Week 1, they were number 6. So of those teams ahead of them, Georgia, Michigan, Florida State, Texas, which ones deserve to be? Look, I think Georgia gets the benefit of the doubt until they're no longer the back-to-back national champions. They could look worse as the season goes on, and we can reevaluate then. But as of right now, we're going to leave them number 1. And I don't hear anybody giving them any grief for their points or yards allowed against their competition so far. Just a reminder, Georgia's played 2 games against University of Tennessee, Martin, and Ball State. Why are we giving Michigan extra credit? Is it because of Coach Dad Pants, Jim Harbaugh? Harbaugh hasn't even coached yet against any of their 2 teams that they play. Lower competition. The Wolverines, they haven't even played a Power 5 team yet. But hey, you know what? Let's crown them better than USC because they made the playoffs last year. Now, you hear my sarcasm. Michigan's returning a lot of that same team from last year. So I understand keeping them number 2, although they didn't actually play in the championship game last year. What about Florida State? Just how good is LSU this year? Right? I mean, I'm assuming most of you watched that game. Are we just going to give the Seminoles credit because they beat a team from the SEC who has a bunch of 5 stars on their roster? Here's what I learned from that game. LSU still has a quarterback problem. They can get after you defensively, but they've got some holes also. In my opinion, no one has a stronger case than Texas right now. They went on the road. They beat a very solid Alabama squad, at least defensively, they're solid. Because Nick Saban, he has a quarterback and an offensive coordinator issue. Big time. And that means you've got big-time issues on that side of the ball. I can see Alabama losing 2-3 games this year easily. So you still give credit to Steve Sarkisian and the Texas Longhorns. It's not easy going into Tuscaloosa and leaving with a win. USC's done it in the past, way back when, but it's not an easy thing to do. According to ESPN, USC has the #1 offensive efficiency in the country. USC has a 96.7 efficiency rate, and that's 30.8% higher than Georgia, 18.1% higher than Oklahoma, 15.4% higher than Colorado, 14.4% higher than Ohio State, and 6.7% more than Oregon, which I want to put that into some perspective. Oregon's efficiency didn't happen against Texas Tech in their second game. They got their shine against Portland State at home. Look, I'll be honest. I don't know what any of that means, that whole offense efficiency stuff. I don't know how they come to that conclusion, what formula they use. But I don't need ESPN to tell me that USC's offense has been efficient. If you watch that Stanford game, you don't need anybody to tell you USC's offense is very efficient. Any of their games this year. Here's my top 5 rearranged. #1, I'm going to leave Georgia there. I think Texas deserves to be at #2 based on their early season win. Excuse me. I've got USC at #3 because of how good they've looked and how well they've looked from going from game 1, game 2 to game 3. They're ramping up. #4, that's where I've got Michigan slotted. And #5, that's where I have Ohio State. Again, Michigan, they're returning a lot of the same team from last year. And you have to assume that they are going to be just as efficient as they were on offense with their 2 running backs. J.J. McCarthy at quarterback. He's not Caleb Williams, but he's pretty good. And defensively, Michigan's always going to bring it. So we'll see what happens during the bye week. There's not a lot of great games to watch. I don't have to watch USC, so I'll get to watch a lot of football and not have to take a break at the end of the day to go to work, so to speak. So I'll have some more feedback next week on the top 25. But I wanted to come back to it because I only talked briefly about it on Monday when the poll came out. But then I started thinking about it. And I was like, which teams ahead of USC are actually better than USC? I don't know. I don't know if Georgia's offense can stay with USC. I know that, in fact, I shouldn't say for a fact, but I feel very confident that Ohio State can. I'm on the fence with Texas. I'm on the fence. They looked good against Alabama. I need to see how good Alabama is. Medical emergencies are going to happen. That's why the Jace case is something everyone should consider, because everyone should be empowered to care for themselves and their loved ones during the unexpected. That's why Jace Medical offers the Jace case. The Jace case provides 5 life-saving antibiotics for emergency use and gives you a peace of mind so that you are not just hoping that you have access to medication in an emergency. Jace Medical makes sure you have the medication in hand. Jace Medical is simple. They handle everything from the online evaluation to licensed pharmacy medication delivery and ongoing consultation and care. Don't get caught unprepared. Save more than $360 by getting these life-saving antibiotics with Jace Medical, plus an additional $20 off by using code LOCKEDON at checkout on jacemedical.com. That's Jace, J-A-S like Sam, E like Edward, medical.com, promo code locked on. So USC freshman wide receiver Zachariah Branch was named the Pac-12 Special Teams Player of the Week for his performance against Stanford. USC won 56-10. This is Branch's first Pac-12 Player of the Week honor, the first of what is going to be many, many, many more. You know the rule. If I say the word 3 times, it's for emphasis. I mean it. It's going to happen. Zachariah was the first Trojan to win this award since kicker Parker Lewis. Remember him? Way back in week 5 of 2021. And Zachariah is the first USC kick returner to win it since Michael Pittman Jr. back in 2017. Yeah. USC Special Teams Player of the Week. That shelf's been getting dusty. Wipe it off. There's going to be quite a few of those as the season goes along. I mentioned this on the show earlier in the week, but it literally bears repeating. Zachariah Branch is the first true freshman since 2013 to score on a receiving touchdown, a kick return touchdown, and a punt return touchdown in the same season. Here's a question for defensive coordinators and for Trojan fans. How soon before he's taking a handoff out of the backfield to the house? Has anybody done that in the same season? Has any true freshman done that in the same season? I'm going to have to get with Katie Ryan, our USC Sports Information Director, and have her look that up for me. Great players, they can cover up for a lot of deficiencies, whether it's coaching, scheme, lack of personnel. The great players cover those up. I think most everybody knows by now, they should know by now, that USC does not have a dedicated special teams coach. And last year, it often looked like it. Well, that hasn't changed a year later. USC still does not have a dedicated special teams coach. It's still coached by committee. So what has changed from last year to this year? Most noticeably, besides Zachariah Branch, is the team's depth during the offseason has improved. And that's the trickle up effect, I guess, to special teams. When you have better depth with better players, you got better players playing on special teams. USC's return game has changed the way their opponents have to game plan. Duh, big red truck. Just saw a fire engine go by, right? So unless you have a kicker, and I'm talking about the opponent now, who can put the ball in the back of the end zone on kickoffs, you are literally running the risk of Zachariah Branch doing something special. And if you want to really scare the opponent, put him back there with Michael Jackson, the third. Or how about a Marshawn Lloyd? Really, the only thing you're doing is you're increasing your odds a little bit by choosing to kick it away from Zachariah. So far, USC's opponents haven't had too many kickoffs. They just haven't been scoring enough. You're always going to have at least one, whether it's to open the game or you deferred the second half. So San Jose State had 5 kickoffs. Nevada had 3 kickoffs. Stanford had 3 kickoffs. Like I said, so far USC's opponents, they haven't had to do too many kickoff opportunities because the Trojans' defense hasn't been giving up too many points, right? This is where things start to get interesting. And how the Trojans' special teams how their returners are changing the complexion of the game. So every game, there are times when the team has to decide. They're either going to punt or they're going to go for it on 4th down. There's that gray area of the field where you're on your side of the field, maybe past the 40 or near midfield. And you have 2 choices, really. If you don't convert on 4th down, the Trojans are going to take possession wherever you didn't convert from. You're close to midfield. You don't want to give Caleb Williams and USC's offense any more of a head start than they already have. So if you choose to punt the ball, Now you're taking the chance of putting it in the back of your own end zone. And I'm not talking about, with a safety, with a ball getting snapped over your head and the punter has to kick it over the end line just to give the other team 2 points. Now the punter is literally faced with being perfect. He either has to drill that ball for a touchback and let USC just start at the 20, or that punter has to have the confidence that he can nail a coffin corner kick inside the 10-yard line. Or what typically happens, because it's high pressure, the punter typically will shank the kick and USC is going to get good field position. Zachariah Branch is going to make USC's opponents think long and hard. What gives them the best chance of survival? USC's chance of survival will get a lot better if they can clean up some of their penalties. I'm going to change course here. I'm on the same tangent, but I'm bringing up the penalties because it's been happening on special teams. If USC cleans those up, they become even more dangerous. And I'm talking about at all 3 levels: offense, defense, special teams. Lincoln Riley talked about this after practice Tuesday, and he was talking about the penalties. He said, if the careless ones continue, these guys will lose playing time. Essentially, he was saying nobody is good enough to do that and stay on the field. Through 3 games so far, and look, it is what it is. USC has always been one of the most penalized teams in the Pac-12 conference. Even when Pete Carroll was coaching, that's what you get with aggressive teams. So far, 9 penalties per game, 87 yards. They got to fix that. They got to clean that up. If they would have cleaned it up in their last game, if they didn't have these penalties, Michael Jackson had a punt return for a touchdown nullified when Jalen Smith got caught holding. It was a legitimate hold, and it was probably karma because Michael Jackson III was called for holding on Marshawn Lloyd's touchdown that got returned because of the holding call. The one penalty I think that probably irritated Coach Riley off the most, I think, was the interception celebration penalty, and that happened by a couple of Trojans. Remember Max Williams? It looked like he was going to get in there for the pick 6. He got tripped up, around the 4 or something like that. There were a couple of defenders who were whooping it up, hollering. Yeah. Won't point them out. Go look at the film. You all know who they are. Don't do that again. Because, like Coach Riley said, nobody's good enough on this roster. Well, there's a few players who I think get a little bit extra latitude. The players who committed these penalties, they're not good enough to have that extra leash. So look, if the defense continues to trend up and the offense just continues to do what they're doing, you now have a complete team that can compete with any of those top programs in the country, because no one has an offense like USC's. No one. You have the best offense in the country. You've got a defense that is trending up and looking better. We're going to see how much better as the competition steps up. And you've got special teams, that third phase, that is going to strike the fear of God into other teams, or the fear of Zachariah, or the fear of Michael Jackson III, or whomever they want to put back there to return kicks. This team could be special. I'm one who likes to kind of pump the brakes, but I'm seeing some stuff that I remember seeing back during those Pete Carroll halcyon years. USC's close. They're getting closer. So until the next episode of Locked on USC, everyone, you know what to do.